The time has come. Hello again. Growing up in the wilds of suburbia, I'm your host, Sir Chad Everbroshears. Today's episode is really rolling off of a conversation I had yesterday with a new friend of mine, and we were discussing really just creating meaningful change. So today's episode is more on effective change starts here. It seems like we're all so incredibly ambitious at times that we want to take on the world's problems. And we're like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to set up my life that I'm going to go and make a change here. And then it's like you devote time to it. My experience of that and what I've observed and also what I've gone through as far as the literature is concerned, the scientific literature, is you see that people become more unbalanced over time, or more imbalanced, and less likely to have a structurally satisfying and meaningful life. That when they don't take on the foundation of their basis, if they're not working on their core values, if the core values are not understood, people have a harder time understanding who they're dealing with as far as in partnership. They have a harder time even for yourself if you don't know your core values. You'll find it challenging to go through life overall and not have pretty upsetting moments where you feel like you've neglected yourself or you're falling short. Which still falls into the neglecting yourself category, but falling short of specific things that you wanted to accomplish in life. Like if you've ever wanted to dance or learn how to dance, or if you ever wanted to, take singing lessons or martial arts, things like that. Those things, if you've wanted to do it and you have not done it, it'll eat away at you. It eats away at you in this subtle aspect in the back of your mind, in the back of your side of your consciousness. Sometimes in the forefront, but the majority of the time, in my experience, it's always been the thing that nags in the background. So, as we discussed this yesterday between this gentleman and I, we talked about the basics that are needed in order to be successful. And yeah, it's so easy to say, you know what, I'm gonna start working on these challenges in life, and I'm gonna go off and I'm going to make big change in somebody else's life. I'm going to help them get better at their own life and be this big change, motivator or factor for somebody else. And yet you don't even clean your room, right? You don't make your bed. If you really wanted to make a meaningful change in your life, start at the absolute basics. You think about it, okay, well, make your bed in the morning before you leave. Like I do this every single morning. There is no reason for me never to not make my bed. So I am always working on that. Go make it and then get your day started. Cleaning your room, it's another thing. I keep my room in a very orderly fashion. Now, why that's important is I've met a lot of very motivated people, and when you get to their bedrooms, if you will, that's the most sacred place that they have. It's the place that they are the most vulnerable in, guaranteed every day that they are at their home. As your bedroom is also where you sleep, and where you sleep, you have no other time in your life that you're more vulnerable than when you're asleep. So it's a place that you have to feel safe, secure. That is on that side of things. With so it is the most sacred place for you as far as your body's needs for safety. And if you do not keep that orderly, it will, and it in my opinion, in my experience, it's always directly reflected how people do their life. Now, I'm not saying because you don't clean your room, you're a bad person or anything like that. You just may not be orderly enough to make the change that you want to make, because change requires structure, or it's by chance. And by chance is like the lottery. And the likelihood you're going to be able to achieve it is lower by far than if you strategize structurally and you set yourself up with, tried and true things. Tried and true systems that have worked for other people in other situations. But staying in order, keeping yourself structurally set up, you will achieve more because you, one, can get guidance. Two, you can still stay the path even when you fail, and don't get you're less likely to get discouraged if you know you just have to keep trying. The problem that most people have is they get discouraged and they don't have that secondary, which is somebody else has done it, so look, this is how they did it, and perseverance is the thing that I need to focus on. But when you blaze a whole new trail in life, like taking shortcuts is actually blazing new trails. They're just very short trails and they have consequences. Now, all paths have consequences, but it's more of what you know about them. If there's another way to graph somebody else's experience onto your own, it increases the likelihood you'll be able to be successful, because you can look at the details that make you different from that person and then see what you can achieve that they did in themselves, what you can do similar to them that would increase your opportunities and chances of success. But first, you want to get started at the most sacred place. You want to get started at your most vulnerable place on the planet, and that's your bedroom. Now, there's a lot of reasons why the bedroom has so much power. Right? It's a place where you're more likely to engage with someone else intimately. It's a place where you are more likely to share the deepest, most vulnerable aspects of yourself with others, as well as on your own. And you'll have, more likely to have epiphanies while you're asleep. You go through dream cycles. Some of those dreams can easily, have emotional outcome that you have to work through when you're back in that state of consciousness. But that's another one that does take place when you're in your bedroom. So there's a real value to straightening up your room. Now, when it comes to core values, there's more than that, right? Like, it's core values. Those are what would fall onto, if you went to the hierarchy of needs, you'd say, okay, order, effort, and strategy, structure, all very, very, very important. When you go to the core values, once you get your the hierarchy of needs base level understood, maybe not necessarily established, you got to work on it, and I do work on it daily, and a lot of it's in my routine, but others are being worked into my routine. Apologize, traffic just distracted me enough that I lost my train of thought. Building those things into your routine, they're incredibly beneficial, but you want to take them on in a effective way. Now, if you take on, let's say, 3 things to elicit change, say you want to take cold showers to help, hormonal spiking in the morning, give you more testosterone response in the mornings. Now, if that's what you want to take on, okay, there's one change, and you change the comfort of a warm shower, right? Well, then you also take on changing or making your bed, and then you take on, I'm going to read the newspaper. All simple things that you could put out there that you're going to do for change, or you're going to read, a chapter out of a book that you're dedicated to reading. You have 3 things that you're trying to take on at once. Now, let's say that the cold shower is so incredibly unpleasant that it is just negatively impactful to you in a way that you're like, I don't want to do that. Well, making your bed's not that big of a challenge. It just takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of time, and then it's done. But if you collapse that with the cold shower emotion, the experience of doing that, or let's say I want to read 1 chapter before I leave my home every morning, so they can get, learn what I want to learn in this book, specific book, whatever it is you're working on. You may also find that you bit off a little bit more than you can chew by the time you've allocated to reading that chapter. maybe an unrealistic time frame. Now you've got the negative experience or the undesirable experience of a cold shower and the shortness on time for reading the chapter and your attachment to getting that goal done. Now you've got two things that do not line up. They're more uncomfortable, but yet the making your bed's not that bad. And it's because of it's the coexistence of those behavior changes at one time can make it that all three are undesirable. And then the emotion kind of resonates with each one individually, even though there were three compounded emotions there. So, but if you take on a task a day and work towards improving on that task every single day, you'd be surprised how quickly you can work, again, making your bed. You can work that into your regular routine simply by making it an effort every day for a week. You'll see that it becomes easier. After 2 weeks, it becomes easier. After 3 weeks, it seems like it's part of the process. After 4 weeks, you get this real sense of comfort that this is going to be a thing that you're going to do regularly. And I don't mean like a great sense of comfort where you're like, wow. No, you feel the small amount of change that it will build up towards as far as overall, because every time you make these little behavior changes, you start to feel a little bit more potency about yourself, more capability of accomplishing things. So you keep building that up, you add that to the pile. It's not one action changes your life, although you can say, yes, one action changes your life because of the way actions commingle. But you don't want one action to change it. You want one action to go to the next action. It becomes a cascading event. So after speaking with, again, this friend of mine, same as Kali, we discussed that. Make your bed. You take on a bunch of different things, but if you don't get to the absolute basics, you could be creating a very disorganized effort that people are learning, a disorganized experience that may leave you going, I don't ever want to do that again. It was unsuccessful. Or leave them going, that was not preferable. Really, that person's not put together well. But when you take these individual things on, practice them to the point of high proficiency, then the next thing doesn't have as negative of an impact. But even if it's not successful in the very beginning, it's just starting over with a new thing, another thing that you're building on. So, Woo! Wow. I get one. Anyway, all right. So, making those behavior changes, they're absolutely essential if you want to make a big change in the world. I'm doing this, and it's also it's a place for me to go to when I'm dealing with upsets, right? Like going through very emotionally challenging times. Those base level core values will help me reinstall the love for myself that can be missing, or that I could remove from myself from whatever's happened, recent history. It's the self-reflection and the who I believed I was versus who I actually turned out to be in the world of the other person's experience. The feeling like I've lost a piece of myself in the future that was being created. All of that destabilized my emotional center enough that it made me really look deep at things, myself and everything else. And my core values really brought back into perspective like me and who I am in the world in a way that is freeing from what happened in the other, with that previous relationship, which was another world, right? Another reality, because it was the reality the two of us were creating. Now more back towards that, who I am, regardless of the consequences of other people in my life, I still have my who I am as a center. So what you're going to read, whatever your educational pieces are going to be, is going to be one of your core values. So your core values are laid out in a simple way. Educationally, what do you need in order to feel like you're educating yourself toward your goals, no matter what those goals are, personal, professional, just life goals overall? whatever it is, what are you reading or educating yourself regularly in? I personally do prefer that reading, although listening to things on audio, videos, podcasts, things like that, they're easier, obviously, when I'm driving, but I really like reading because it does something just a little different. It accesses other places of your mind beyond just what you hear. There's benefits and cost to both, but still, point of it is the core value. Educationally, what are you doing to move yourself in a specific direction? Not academically, sorry. On a self-care, what time do you need to be to bed in order to make yourself the healthiest version of yourself? What types of food do you need to eat in order for your body to show you, to become, not show you, but for your body to become what you want it to be, how you want it to look, function, overall, how you want it to, its health, your body's health, all of that. What what do you need to eat? What kind of leisure stuff do you need to do in order to feel that you are currently, enjoying aspects of your life to the point of entertainment or whatever, right? Do you like certain types of movies or things like that? You want to give like the joy piece to yourself. And for me, the joy is all of the growth. But you do want to give yourself something else that's going to help with that. So you want to establish that. And it can easily be for a lot of people that they play video games for that reason. It's not to make them wrong for the video games. It just kind of freezes them in a time capsule as far as their development. They may get better at hand-eye coordination, neurological aspects, things like that. But overall, it really kind of freezes people in the other parts of their life. They're not in the community. They're not interacting with people other than just in that game world, which is fantasy with a lot of emotion. There's a lot of that going on that kind of creates a distance to individuals between one another if they stay there too long. So it time capsules them, if you will. So this is you want to pick these areas in order to make sure you're working on your core values. So what kind of exercise do you need to do in order to meet your body's needs, health, and also function, performance, aesthetics, all of that. It's really the core values are how do you love you? And those are the distinction that you have to come up with. How do you love yourself? And you have to build those. Have a clear understanding. Is when you go into partnership, which is likely going to be in the next video on core values. What I'm talking about now is through the Czech Institute or Paul Czech. He talks about core values from the I, we, and all. So it's 3 categories of core values. I'll be talking about some of those during this video, and then potentially I'll finish up the next video with the other 2. So the we and all. But get to your center, to who you are, what your core values are. Clean up your room, make your bed. Keep things as orderly as you want to see your reality to be, and work that direction. So that's what I have for now. Actually, I'm about 1 minute away from slipping out of my integrity, so I've got to go. But again, if you are enjoying these videos, if you would share them, like the video, subscribe. It can be a great way to start a conversation with somebody. I do encourage, and what I hear back from people is that they have used these videos in order to breach a conversation or start one with somebody, so that they can, have dialogue on something, and having this be the way that they do that. They play this and they talk about it. So with that, again, my name is Sir Chad Everett Broshears, and this is Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. Making these kind of life changes are not always easy. It's a roller coaster. There's the heights and the great emotions out of it, and then there's the valleys where you're like, whoa, what am I doing, and how can I maintain this? So it's not always easy. It's a rough ride at times, but stick with me. It's well worth it. Catch you next time.